I'm going to transform this overgrown disaster into a beautiful slice of nature for your lizard, using some easy techniques and some cutting edge technology. If you guys haven't noticed just behind me, most of these tanks look great, except for the ugly duckling. And today we're going to be addressing that in a how to set up a Takydromus or grass lizard vivarium. We're going to be focusing on the green or emerald grass lizard, the Takydromus smaragdinus. It definitely needs some TLC, and I'm going to be bringing you guys along the way, telling you all the tips and tricks that you guys need to know. And not only that, but we're going to be assessing the quality of our work afterwards with today's sponsor, Hick Micro. But we'll be talking about them more later in the video. And with their help, we're going to be able to make the most efficient grass lizard setup possible with perfect basking zones and a great ambient temperature. That's enough blabbling from me though. We're gonna get this tank all cleared out and ready for a fresh setup. But the first step is catching the inhabitants, our beautiful grass lizards. Here is one going into its little capture container. And then we have to destroy the tank and remove everything inside. Okay, and you can see the watermarks are pretty terrible in this tank. With vinegar, a razor blade, and some paper towel, we can fix that mostly. And another pro tip while we're here cleaning exoterras: you're not cleaning your exoterra properly if you're not removing the grate. Super easy to do, pops right out. Now you can clean all inside that disgusting crevice, because believe it or not, a lot of stuff actually gets in there. Now let's see how fast I can do this. And a mere 7 minutes later, we have returned to not 100% perfect glass. Pretty darn close, especially for a secondhand tank. There's some scratches, there's some insane watermarks down there that you'd only be able to get out with like a glass polisher. And we're not doing that. Clean the track here, now we can pop that back in. And we can get building. You can see a few of the materials that we'll be using in this build. And to make everything simple for you guys, I'll be leaving links in the description to all the products that were used. They will be affiliate links, so feel free to go check that out if you want to help support the channel at no extra cost to you. First off, we have washed leca. This is basically an expanded clay media that you need to wash before using, because look how nasty the water is as I'm washing it out. I used window mesh and cut a square out of it to make a barrier between the substrate level and the clay balls. Our soil mixture, which I'll talk more about later, but it is here. You can see all the different components. Finally, we have our exoterra background that Bree painted in dry lock to add a little bit more of an authentic look, and it makes it so much more durable. And then of course we have everything that you're going to need for a typical build. You're going to need wood, you're going to need leaf litter, you're going to need your live plants, and then you have to also consider things like lighting and whatnot, but we already have that on the rack, so we're not going to cover that in this video. Just know that they do need UVB and heat. Now that we have everything all together, we can begin by putting the background into the tank. Because this is an exoterra background, it'll just slide nicely in place. Following that, we can then add the hydro balls, and I'll reiterate here, make sure they are thoroughly washed. It's easy to do, and it saves yourself a lot of headache in the future. Once those are nice and leveled out, we can add the window screen mesh or the weed barrier, whatever you have with you, it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is making sure whichever barrier you choose is slightly oversized for your tank. You want it to kind of curl up on the ends and come an extra ½ inch or inch up the sides. This will prevent the substrate from going over the barrier and into the drainage layer. Now, one of the most important things in your tank is going to be a soil mixture. This is what we are using for our build. It is a combination of coconut coir, topsoil, sphagnum moss, fir bark, and sand, because we want a nutrient-rich soil to grow the plants very well, but we also want it to drain, because a saturated soil is a no bueno soil. You do not want that for your animals. I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. You can see I've added in quite a bit more wood substrate, the fir bark, and a good bit more sand as well. Again, we want this to be a very nutrient dense but well draining soil. Now, there is one final thing that we'll be adding, and that is our own jungle fuel by the Jungle Vault. If you guys are in Canada and you're looking to give this a try, let us know. We can happily ship it to you. If you guys are looking to boost the growth on all of your plants as well as increase the amount of bioactivity, this is the product for you. If you guys are going to be at the January Expo here in Ontario, we will have this available. Make sure to come get it from us. And like I said, if you're elsewhere in Canada, we're happy to ship. We can ship to the US, but it will be expensive, so you might have to buy several bags to make it worth it. This is a ton more substrate than what we'd use in this tank, so this will be plenty of power in this bag to load up our tank, and all the rest of the tanks that we use it in later down the road. With the soil all mixed up, we can begin adding it to the tank. We're going to add as much as we possibly can in a tank this size, especially considering we have a drainage layer. We basically want it at least a couple inches thick because we do have some very root feeding heavy plants going in here, like a ficus and a couple other plants. Ensuring the layer is as thick as possible, it will give the most amount of nutrients to that plant and promote their healthy growth. But before we can get those plants into the tank, we need to think about the hardscape. And if you guys have seen my channel before, you'll know that Bree spends so much time thinking about the hardscape. It is crazy, but it always turns out good. There's definitely a lesson in there for everybody because we can all take a little bit more time to rearrange and place things and move things from that place. This video clip is 10 minutes and she went on for much longer than this. So take your time, think about all the possible basking areas when you're building your hardscape. Like, where are the lizards going to sit to get heat? Where are they going to sit to get UVB? Where can they just hide amongst the branches? And truthfully, there isn't a whole lot of that yet, but once the plants grow in, there will be plenty of space available. And now that Bree is happy with her branch placement, you can see there's a very clear basking branch and a bunch of little twigs for them to zoom around on. Now it's time to get to some planting. Something to keep in mind when you're planting your plants is how big they're going to grow. Obviously, this one right now is quite large, so we're going to be trying to place it near the back. The next one up is going to be the Ficus benjamina. This one we're keeping in the mid ground, but towards the back because we do know this gets large and it will create a canopy over time. I'm very excited for that moment, and I know the Takydromus will love it as well. And then to wrap up the planting session, we just had a couple very low growing plants that will kind of take over the bottom of this enclosure. Especially when you add babies to the tank, they do like to rummage around in the leaf litter as well as hide under plants and whatnot on the ground. They're not always going to be up high in the tank. Bree is just planting the last couple little foreground plants, and then there's just one last step before adding the leaf litter to the tank, which is Jungle Boost, which is a mixture of, at this point, it's mostly just the dwarf whites that we're going to be adding in. Isopods. And then of course we have to add some springtails to this build. You can see me blowing them into the enclosure right now. The final step of the build is of course adding our leaf litter. We have to make sure that that is incorporated into the build because, like I mentioned earlier, the Takydromus love hiding under it. Not only do they love hiding under it, they love searching for food in the leaf litter. Probably one of the most important steps of any enclosure build is ensuring you have the proper temperatures in your enclosure. And right here we have the Hick Micro Eco Series E02 handheld thermal camera. A thermal camera is something that I have always thought would be one of the best tools for a reptile keeper because you can see the heat. It offers a 240 by 240 resolution image, and by clicking the trigger, you can actually take images to refer to later. There's 4 gigabytes of onboard storage, which is enough space to save thousands of photos, and the temperature is incredibly accurate at 0.05 degrees Celsius or 0.09 degrees Fahrenheit. The E02 has a wide variety of thermal profiles, which means you can pick whatever pretty colors suits your fancy and customize your device to suit your needs and your personality. The functionality of the thermal camera for reptile keeping is beyond my wildest dreams, and combined with a 10-year warranty on the sensors, it's honestly a no-brainer. It is currently on sale at the link down below if you guys are interested in picking one up for yourselves. You deserve that Christmas gift. If you're a Canadian, Hick Micro is running a 28% off deal right now, so pick it up as soon as you possibly can. And in the US, I'll link to a similar thermal imaging camera which is also on for 20% off. So feel free to pick either of them up at the links down in the description. Thank you to Hick Micro for sponsoring today's episode and ensuring my reptiles are safe and cozy. So a few key pointers that I did want to mention. In your Takydromus tank, you want to have plants that will grow and allow them to traverse on them. You want to have a ton of fine branches across all of the tank. They use them like little highways to maneuver their tank, and you'll see them on simply the smallest of branches. And now with the Takys in their new home, we can wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions on how to set up a Growout Takydromus smaragdinus or green grass lizard tank, make sure you let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to answer whatever you guys have down there. Hope you learned something, and make sure to check out the sponsor of today's video. They are an incredible product. They're certainly worth what they cost. I've always dreamt of having one of these beautiful thermal cameras, and I'm sure you guys have too. They also have a few other options, like ones that you can hook up to your phone and so much more. So check the links in the description. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later!